Good evening and welcome to Transition Talks Tuesdays. My name's Tim Markle. I'm director of the Children's Resource Center South. And this session of Transition Talks Tuesdays is in partnership with the Columbus School District Transition Program. This is the time of the program where I normally say, hey, Jalea, do you want to say hi to everybody? But we're having a little bit of technical difficulty, so we're hoping she'll be able to connect sometime during tonight. Without further ado, we are excited to have Serena Robson with us tonight. She is an information assistant specialist from the Aging and Disability Resource Center of Columbia County. And you saw me right in the description. This is a key next step partner for transition. So Serena, I'm so glad that you could join us tonight. I will do my best to keep up with you in the chat. Thanks for being here.
All right. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. All right, I'm going to just go ahead and share my screen. Let's make sure it actually shares what I wanted to. Are you seeing my slideshow?
Yes, we are. It looks really
Okay,
good. Oh, I like those colors too. That's a very nice blue.
Yes, I just wanted to make sure I'm actually showing the slideshow and not presenter view. So as Tim said, we are, I work at the Aging and Disability Resource Center in Columbia County here. There are Aging and Disability Resource Centers in every county. So if for some reason you are living like across the county border or you end up moving, please know that the information is the same for all ADRCs. Some have additional resources, but in general, there's an ADRC for every county, and these core services that we're going to talk about are offered at every Aging and Disability Resource Center. So, and that's so I'll oftentimes say ADRC, which is just a shortened term for us. We are known as the place to start when you don't know where to start. Oftentimes that really is, people just don't know who to call, and so call us. We can help get you a phone number, even if we're not the right resource, we can at least get you the phone number for who you should be in touch with. And pictured is actually our new building. So for anyone who hasn't seen our new building, we are in the new building, county building downtown in Portage. You aren't expected to come to this building. We will come to you. But we do have people who would like to come to our office. And so it's just a nice way to see it. All right. So what do we do? There are a lot of services that we have to offer. Information and assistance is only one portion of that. And the options counseling and enrollment counseling that we're going to talk about a little bit further on are part of that information and assistance, which is what I do. But people can also come here to talk about benefits counseling, so like health insurance benefits or public benefits. We have adult protective services. So not every ADRC has adult protective services inside their office. Sometimes it's just within Health and Human Services. We oftentimes work very closely together, but ours is set up so that adult protective services is just down the hall from our offices. We're all in the same unit. And we can work with them to do the referrals for guardianship as those are needed. We also have a nutrition program, a transportation program, a foot clinic, prevention workshops, which are oftentimes things to help with preventing falls or helping people manage any health issues. We also have dementia resources. We have a dementia care specialist here. We have caregiver support groups. We are starting a memory cafe. We offer memory screening, and we have a bi-monthly newsletter. So who do we assist is any person who is 18 and older with a disability or elders, so anyone over the age of 60. Whether they have a disability or not, once they're the age of 60, they can be served here, but anyone 18 and older can be served by us. We do start the transition services at 17 and a half. So we can absolutely start working with people at 17 years and 6 months and start those things so that it's a smooth transition to the adult programs. We are service centers for the public to be able to come in and get information. And our sole purpose is to make sure that they're getting the information without a bias to any particular program or any particular company. And that's the entire purpose is just to get people connected to the resources that are out there. Whether it's something that is screened by us or we're just giving you phone numbers to know the resources. That's what we're here for. All right. So examples of topics we may discuss. There are a lot of things listed here. I'm going to just touch on some of the ones that we may discuss throughout the transition process. Um, but you can see that there are also a lot more. So housing is actually something that we might talk about. We might talk about, are you looking for independent housing, or are we needing to look at assisted living housing for kiddos as they're leaving the family home? Or are they not going to leave the family home? So we'll also talk about some of those in-home services. If they're going to be going to independent housing, are they going to need things like house cleaning? Are they going to need somebody to help them get groceries? Are they going to need those long-term care programs to help with those supports and help fund those supports? We also may discuss, and oftentimes will, is Social Security and applying for disability, and what that process looks like, and getting a referral in to someone who can assist with that process. Um, we can talk about like energy assistance or other utility assistance to make sure that people can be as independent as possible, especially when they don't have a whole lot of income coming in. What are some ways to make sure you still have a phone, you still have food? Those are all things that we'll talk about as people are turning 18. Sometimes we are assessing those things and we might skip over them in a conversation because of the assessment of just what's coming up throughout the assessment. But these are always things that you can ask us and we can talk about more in depth. But we try to make it as um, it's already an overwhelming process. So we try to skip over anything we can so that it doesn't become too overwhelming. Um, All right. So the long-term care related services, which is a lot of what we spend our time talking about during the transition process, is we're going to talk about supportive home care. What are some of the things inside a home that you need assistance with? Is that cleaning? Is that helping make meals? Is that life skills? Um, are we needing to talk about some personal care services? Someone to come in and help with showering or bathing or sorry, showering and bathing. But someone to come in and help with dressing or making sure that the clothing that are items that are set out are weather appropriate or um, just any personal care items, grooming as well, like brushing your teeth, brushing your hair. We also will talk about things like respite care. Are you needing someone who can actually just sit with your loved one? Um, or is that not something that you're looking for and you want to be the sole caregiver? We're going to talk about that. Um, we'll also talk about any durable medical equipment. So if there's anything that's needed to allow someone to be independent, we're going to look at some options to try and make sure that you have the equipment that you need. That transition planning. So as the kiddos are turning 17 and a half, we're talking about the process of applying for Social Security, the process of looking at these long-term care services. Are we needing guardianship or do we need something a little less restrictive? And we can help with creating those documents for people because we want to see someone have the least restrictive as possible. So if they can have just a supported decision-making document, that's great. And we can help fill that out. Um, and we do have notaries here as well. So if you are looking at those documents and you need someone to notarize them, we do have people who can do that. And then independent living skills, which I kind of touched in with supportive home care, but that's also something that we look at. Is that something that they're needing? So the transition counseling, we can make referrals to the disability benefit specialist, which would be Nikki Robarge. She was unable to be here tonight, but she, I think, was last year came. But she can assist with the application for Social Security disability or Supplemental Security Income. And I'll talk a little bit more about the difference between those two in a later slide, but just know that she is there to help you through that process and with all of the paperwork that goes along with that. We also will look at the medical assistance. What kind of Medicaid are you eligible for? And we're going to help make sure that you have that. We can make a referral for guardianship or any other legal decision-making that's needed. We can also provide some information about the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation, or DVR. We can help make those referrals as well. And I have oftentimes submitted referrals on someone's behalf for them to get that process started if they're not already connected with DVR. We can also talk about representative payee information. We see this a lot with the kids who are turning 18 and have a disability, that a lot of them don't meet the threshold for needing a guardian, but really are needing some help with financial decision making. And so we can talk about some representative payee options to help with Social Security paperwork and managing money. And then we also look at the long-term care programs. Sorry, lost my mouth. All right. Okay, so options counseling, that's the official term, but it is really just us sitting down and talking about what all of the care options are for you and what all of the resources are, and helping through that decision-making process of what is the way you want to go to meet your care needs. And that's really all it is a conversation about what do you need and what are the resources that are going to meet those needs, and then helping you get connected to those resources. Right. And then part of that process is eligibility for a long-term care program. So during that options counseling process, we are discussing and assessing, is this something that you can be eligible for? So we look at financial and functional eligibility. So medical assistance, or Medicaid, is a portion of that. And that's who pays for the long-term care services that you would be receiving. So we help with that application, and we help with gathering anything that's needed throughout that process. So the Medicaid application is a whole beast of its own, and we are there to help you with that. So especially as kids are turning, it's actually when they turn 19 that they're considered outside of their parents for Medicaid. And so we might not have to do anything throughout as they're turning 18, but know that you can always come back to us and we can take a look at that and help you with that process if we need to. We also administer what's called the long-term care functional screen. So it's just a conversation about the things that someone needs assistance with in their daily life. We talk about personal cares, but we also talk about cares of a home that are needed in order to manage life. So taking garbage out, making meals. Are they able to clean up after themselves after a meal? So it's not just, do they need help with getting up and walking around or bathing or dressing themselves, but also, are they able to manage money? Are they able to manage their medications and know which ones they should take and when they should take their medications? And that's all something that we just do as a conversation. You don't have to demonstrate anything. It does not need to be like documents from doctors or schools to say what the assistance is. It's just a conversation. So with that functional screen, there are two options where someone can be eligible. And so we have this on here because we want to make people a little bit aware of the terms. Please don't feel like you have to remember all of this information. Just knowing where to go is all we really need to take away. But don't be alarmed if you hear nursing home level of care. That is a good thing. That means it's the big benefit package, really. Okay. And then non-nursing home level of care means you're eligible, but you get the small benefit package. So the non-nursing home level of care is for our kids or individuals who are just not needing as many services, but could still use some case management or assistance with getting to doctor's appointments and like that transportation piece, which in our area, we know transportation is a really big issue. So that's something that they can qualify for, even at that non-nursing home level of care. And that, but please don't be alarmed if you hear that your child or that you are at the nursing home level of care. It really just means that you're eligible for any benefit that is offered through that program. Okay. So enrollment counseling is the formal term for you're eligible. Now let's talk about which programs you want. Okay. So we talk about the different program options of family care partnership, and IRIS. Oftentimes we just explain it as family care partnership and IRIS just to kind of take out that second family care. But we are talking about those three programs and helping you through the decision-making process of which one you want, and which company you want to manage that program for you. So it's just a formal term for we're going to actually move forward with enrolling you in the program. Okay. So again, those long-term care programs, the state forms will say family care partnership, and IRIS. So just don't be alarmed if you choose a partnership and you're seeing things that still say family care. It's because the formal name is family care partnership. We will only address it as partnership to try and avoid some confusion. But just because of, I know the paperwork is going to show that, we wanted to make sure that that's the term you're seeing in writing here. But again, we will always help you through this. Okay. Please don't feel like you are ever going to have to make a decision by yourself. That's the purpose of having us involved, is that we are going to help guide you through that decision-making process. So the disability benefit specialist is another really big part of that transition. And so the disability benefit specialist works with anyone from age 18 to 59. This is a unique one in that they can't start services until 18 because Social Security doesn't allow those applications until the age of 18. However, as soon as someone turns 18 on their 18th birthday, they can submit an application for disability. So if an individual has a disability determination as a child, that will automatically start where they'll start looking at adult disability. But if they were not found disabled as a child or were found disabled but didn't receive a payment, we may need to do an application then. And that's something that our disability benefit specialist can do with you. And she helps throughout the entire process. So she helps with filling out the paperwork, and then you're going to continue to get paperwork in the next couple of months. And she can help every time you get paperwork in the mail. You can bring it in and she can assist you with filling that out. So there really is a lot that a disability benefit specialist can do. And also she can help if an individual is denied for disability, she can help with an appeal. She can help with one appeal. So if you get denied twice, then she'll refer you out. But she's going to be able to help with an appeal if you get denied. So please don't be alarmed if your child has applied or you've helped them apply and they get denied. Don't be alarmed. You still get to get that free assistance throughout the appeal process. Okay. So a disability benefit specialist can also review insurance for an individual. So if someone is on Medicaid, they can help make sure that they're on the right Medicaid for them. because there are different types and some types have a cost, and we don't want to see people having a cost if they shouldn't. She can also help with reviewing Medicare insurance. So for anyone who has had a disability long enough that they then get Medicare as well, or has worked enough to get Medicare, she can help with making sure that they have the Medicare insurance that they should have, including prescription drug insurance. So if your child ever does end up having Medicare because they've been just found disabled and they've had disability long enough, please know that once that starts, they can come in and meet with the disability benefit specialist, and she will help make sure that they have everything they need for insurance. And then for Social Security, she applies for, there's two different types of disability for Social Security. There's Social Security disability income, which is the benefit for people who have worked and paid into Social Security and are unable to continue working. And so they are able to get a benefit based on the amount that they've paid in. So very likely for the kids who are transitioning, we are looking at the Supplemental Security Income. And that's not always the case. And that's something that the disability benefit specialist will help you with. But that Supplemental Security Income is for the kids or individuals who have not been able to work or pay into Social Security because their disability has started at such a young age. And so that's where we want to know that they're getting at least a minimum amount to be able to survive and throughout life. You have to pay things like rent and for groceries and or utilities. And so that's what that benefit is there for, to make sure that you have some money to survive off of. So that's something that the disability benefit specialist will work with. And oftentimes you'll hear either SSI or SSDI. They're both disability. It's just which type. And don't worry about that either. We can always help with that. And she can also help with applying for food share benefits and making sure that the food share amount that you receive is the appropriate amount. She can help with housing assistance, so applying for housing if needed, or getting you connected to some assistance with paying for housing, utility assistance. And then the benefits counseling is just looking at different benefits that are available for an individual. Delia has her hand raised.
Hi, Serena. I didn't get to
Hi.
say hi earlier. Thank you so much for being here. If you don't want to get into this, that is fine, but I'm wondering whether the disability benefit specialist would also help to explain to families why it is beneficial to apply for SSI when there are such stipulations regarding wages and reporting. I know that a lot of families I work with have reservations about getting, about their individual getting paid employment because of all of those rules about how much money they can make at a specific amount of time and so on and so forth. Is that something that the disability benefit specialist would explain in detail? Because I find that's the largest barrier to wanting their loved one to work.
Absolutely. Yes, the disability benefit specialist can review that and can also help people with figuring out how much can you make before your Social Security, or how much can you make through work before your Social Security benefits would be impacted. And if they are impacted, because sometimes you can still end up making more while receiving them. So she can help with how much can you work after they are impacted before you won't be eligible for SSI. So it is definitely something that she can work through. I can help explain some of it, but I have not. I used to fill in the role of disability benefit specialist, so I have some of the general information, but things change. So the actual numbers change every year, just based on inflation. So I can kind of help explain it a little bit, but the disability benefit specialist can actually work with you on what the current numbers are for how much you can work before SSI would be impacted. And it really can help benefit. You can have quite a bit more income by having that. And SSI on its own is not very much to live off of. I think at this time, it's just a little bit over $1,000 a month, which is very difficult for individuals to live off of. I know if that's all they know, they learn to live within their means, but that doesn't always meet their needs. And that's something that we can always talk about. If there's another way to increase that, we will absolutely look at that as well. So, yes. And so the short answer is yes, the disability benefit specialist can help talk with individuals about SSI and why it would still be beneficial to work while receiving SSI. All right. So just another important thing for people to know is that we do have a transportation program here at the ADRC. There is a cost for our transportation, but if you have the long-term care programs, sometimes we contract with some of those. So it is a possibility that you could use our transportation to get to appointments. So we like to make sure that's known because, again, that we know that transportation is a major issue for our areas, that things just aren't always in the same town that you need, that you live in. So, all right. So, I kind of went through really quickly. But I wanted to make sure we had plenty of time for questions. And then I also wanted to make sure that we didn't spend too much time so that it was overwhelming. I think it's really important for you to know that you are not expected to know any of this information when you come and meet with us. The thing that we want you to take away from this is that we are the place to start when you don't know where to start. So just call us if you don't know what to do. Even if your child isn't 17 and 6 months, but they're getting close and you just want to know what things will look like, call us. We are happy to help talk through that. And also to help see, are there any services they qualify for prior to that transition that we can help get them connected to as a child so that they can start getting some services earlier. So definitely just be aware that we're here and that you can call us. And if that is the only thing you remember, you've done very well. So
Thank you,
like
Serena. This is Tim. Just a couple of quick questions here from my part, just to clarify, because I'd like to clarify these things sometimes. So even if a family has a child who is receiving children's long-term support, they will not automatically become part of the adult long-term support. They need to contact the ADRC and work with that, correct?
So correct. It's supposed it oftentimes the case manager for the children's long-term supports will make that referral. But we do see, every once in a while where a case manager misses a referral. So if you have not heard from us and you think that it's time to be talking to us, give us a call. We can start that referral. It does not automatically happen. It has to be made by an individual, and there's human error in that. So, we all do it. We all make mistakes and miss things. So just give us a call if you think that something has been missed. And sometimes that does happen where referrals get made like right as someone's turning 18. That also, you're not going to lose your children's benefits until after we're done with the screening for the long-term care and have you officially transitioned so that they are continuing to receive services. Okay. So know that just because they're turning 18, if that referral didn't get made or you didn't start working with us until the day before they turn 18, you're not going to lose your services just because they turned 18. We're going to finish that process first.
And is that the same if the child is on SSI?
Yes.
That will not, they still need to work with you to.
Oh, I'm sorry. So do you mean for to receive SSI
Mhm.
or for the adult programs?
For SSI.
Okay, so for SSI, if they are receiving SSI, Social Security will automatically do a review upon them turning 18. But there's going to be paperwork that needs to be done. And we won't know that you're working with Social Security because they don't release any information to us without us having permission. So give us a call, because we oftentimes see where people are not involved with the children's long-term supports, but are still receiving SSI or have a disability as a child. And we have no way of knowing that they're there because Social Security will not tell us.
And it's easy for paperwork to get lost. So remember, there may be a lot of paperwork that's coming through right at that transition age. And so you really got to sort of pay attention to it.
Yes. And some of the paperwork doesn't need to be filled out and it's just for information, and some of it needs to be filled out. So absolutely just give us a call and we
Yeah.
can help.
And most likely it's all on the same color paper. So,
Yep.
you can't know until you read it.
Yes.
We do have a question. Does the ADRC benefit specialist make house calls if a person is disabled?
Yes. Yes, we all do. Here at the ADRC, we can all go and provide services inside someone's home. So
Is that common for all ADRCs? Do you know?
yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's actually a requirement from the state of Wisconsin in the ADRC contracts. So, yes, we do house calls. I know with the disability benefit specialist, it's not as common that they are going out into homes because some of the things that they're doing are on the computer. And it works easier if they know they have internet access and are connected to a secure server. But if needed, they absolutely can come to your home. And Nikki has done that and met with people in their homes. And sometimes it's doing some of it in the home and then doing some once connected to the internet. Sometimes it's just bringing the whatever we need to make sure that we can connect to an internet connection that's secure in a home. So. Mm-hmm.
Please feel free. You can either raise your hand using the reaction icon at the bottom of your Zoom link. If you click on the reaction icon, you'll be given an option to raise your hand, and then we can call on you. You can also put your question in the chat. You can also free to just unmute, and as long as all you don't all mute together, then I'm going to be able to call on you one at a time. And when you do unmute, just don't everybody do it at once.
Mm-hmm.
Just give people a couple moments here to formulate any questions that they might have.
Tim, we have
Absolutely.
a question from
Great, Julia.
Julie Hajewski.
Hello, all. I am here with Jalea in Columbus in live person. Serena, I have a question about guardianship in Columbia County. What's your experience with time frame for pursuing guardianship? I mean, I know you can't file paperwork until that 17 and 6 months, but I've heard in some counties you really should start the process sooner because it's a little bit lengthier. What's your experience in Columbia County?
So I know that with guardianship, the courts will not accept paperwork until 17 years and 9 months. So it's different than with the long-term care programs and with any other services. But with guardianship, they can't even file the paperwork with the courts until 17 years and 9 months. And typically that is enough time. Right now, they're a little bit backed up. And so there is a little bit longer delay, but that's not typical, especially for guardianships as people are turning 18. It's a lot easier to have it done prior to an 18th birthday than it is to come back and have to do it after. So please be aware that that doesn't necessarily mean you have to get it done before they turn 18, but we need to be starting that as close to an 18th birthday as possible. When we see people who are, that referral doesn't happen until they're age 20 or older, oftentimes the court is saying, what has happened that they were able to at age 18 and aren't able to now? And we have to actually provide a lot more information. So even if it doesn't happen by their 18th birthday, but the court hearing is a little bit after. There are things that we can do to make sure that that is all okay and taken care of. Now, you can start with the examining physician's report, so getting the doctor paperwork together a little bit before that, the 17 years and 9 months. That is all stuff that can be done prior. They just can't take the actual paperwork to the court to get a court date prior to 17 years and 9 months.
Because sometimes, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a medical requirement for a physician to sign off on any type of physical or intellectual disability that's been medically diagnosed. And sometimes, as you all know, having that, scheduling that appointment can
Yes.
take a long time. So how does one
Yes.
procure that information prior to 17-9? Like, how do you get that paperwork then?
So that paperwork, you can call us ahead of time and we can get that to you.
Okay,
Those are all things that we can get to you prior. Oftentimes also, those are forms that a doctor's office has access to. They're just state forms. It's honestly going to the state website and that they have access to. But know that we can get those to you ahead of time. They just can't take the referral prior to then. But getting in to see the doctor and getting that assessment completed, absolutely, you can start earlier. They're going to want to make sure it's done within the within a year of when they turn 18. That's really the only thing. If it's 2 years ago, you're going to need something a little bit more recent. But absolutely, if you have that form completed within a year of someone turning 18, you can do that.
We also have a question in the chat. They have 4 adopted foster children that are getting closer to 18. Should they work with the ADRC in the county that the adoption was in, or in the county where they currently live?
So it depends. It's not a clear-cut answer. So if they are legally adopted and now residents of Columbia County, they work with us. That's it. They work with us, and that's a very clear-cut answer then. The times when it can get questionable, and so I don't know with this situation, is if they're still working with the children and family programs in the previous county. So, and then it's just a matter of having a conversation. I would have to talk with our supervisor at the state because they tell us how that works. But oftentimes we're going to be working with you one way or another because we're the ones who are closest to you. And so it's going to be a lot easier to meet with us than it is to meet with a different company.
Another question, does our 21-year-old on the spectrum facilitate the process himself? I'm assuming the process of working with the ADRC, or are you open to family members helping?
So he can call, you can call. If he is his own legal decision maker, he has to give permission for us to come and meet with him in the home. And he has to be the one signing paperwork, but you can call to begin to start that process. We oftentimes take phone calls where it is just a referral from someone saying, I know this individual needs some assistance. Can you please reach out to them? And we can absolutely do that. And yes, I completely understand the 21-year-old on the spectrum struggling with adulting.
Adulting. Yep.
You can absolutely call and make that referral. It's just a matter of him giving us permission to, if we were doing a home visit. If you were going to bring him into the office, we don't even have to talk to him beforehand. So and that can be, you're on the phone with him too. So it's really just, if we're going to be coming into his living environment, we need to know that he's okay with that. So.
Yeah, so a release, or that's another area where the supported decision-making documents can come into play. If he has named you as a supporter for help in talking to the ADRC, then you could be there to help him understand what the ADRC is saying and help the ADRC understand what he's saying, even though he's still the decision maker.
And you are absolutely like involved in that, as long as he's saying yes, he wants you involved. If he's his own legal decision maker and he says, no, I don't want them involved, then we can't. We have to go with what the law says. And if he says, no, we can't. But if he just gives us a verbal, yes, I'd like my mom to be there. Absolutely. That's all it takes. And then when we meet in person, we would get the formal release, just so that if he calls and it's not the person, if I'm out of the office and you were working with me, my coworkers know, yep, we have permission to talk with her. So.
Before I forget, Julia has another question here, but Serena, is it okay for us to share the PowerPoint? If you send me the PowerPoint, can I put it as PDF, send it out? Okay, thanks. I just want to make sure that, Julia.
Yeah, so I wanted to clarify to Kasha and whomever else may have a question. If you're working with a special educator or a transition coordinator or any type of service provider stakeholder that you also feel connected to, or that your loved one feels connected to, they can also give consent for that individual to be a part of these meetings. I am a part of a lot of my students' meetings, and I'm able to not only learn for myself, but also to help interpret information, help fill out paperwork, talk a little bit more about any type of functional or academic screening questions that may be difficult for a parent, where you may see different things at home than you do at school. So keep that in mind. If you do work with service providers right now, that consent can go further than just a parent. If that individual gives that consent, if they are their own legal decision maker.
Absolutely. And I will say, I've actually met with individuals in the school because that is when it worked for them. And it just gave the least amount of disruption to their day. So we've absolutely done that. We've also come in and sat in during an IEP meeting and had that be a way to get the information. So know that we can be pretty flexible in how we meet so that it actually meets the needs that you have. So,
Again, feel free to unmute and you can ask your question, or feel free to put it in the chat.
I'm also happy to talk with people a little bit further later if you want to talk specifically about your individual and don't want to have to worry about any identifying information. I can put my contact information in the chat as well. So I understand that that's a concern.
Right, exactly. So that'd be great. And Serena, if I could include that on the resource sheet that I send out, that'd be fantastic as well. Okay, well, I am going to go ahead, and what we're going to do is I'm just going to shut down the recording, so that if there are questions that you think would be better asked off the recording, that we could do that. But before I do that, Julia, is there any final words that you would like to say this week, since I didn't get you to do the introduction?
Yes. Oh, there's my video. I don't know, maybe I'm freezing, but our internet was acting kind of funky at the beginning, so I'm sorry that I didn't get to say hello and welcome to all of you. Again, I want to thank all of you for attending tonight. I know that it's your own time, but I hope that you're finding these resources and these stakeholders to be helpful. If you have any questions for me as a transition coordinator and as an advocate for individuals with disabilities, please let me know. And Serena, thank you for being so wonderful. I work very directly with ADRC of Columbia County, and they are incredible individuals and professionals. So please reach out if you need anything. Resources are there. I know that they can be overwhelming, but I hope this sheds a little bit of light and insight to let you know that you are not alone and that we're here to help. So thank you all so much for coming.